Hi, I'm Kristen Carroll, and welcome to this first in a series of podcasts looking into the Cultural and Development Centre that is Tirkandi Inaburra. First, I would like to ask Auntie Heather Edwards to conduct the Welcome to Country.
Good morning and welcome to Country. I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of this land that we meet on today. I will also pay respect to elders both past and present and extend that respect to all here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. The staff at Tirkandi Inaburra have been invited today to share their experiences and knowledge with you. Tacandi is a truly unique cultural and development centre for young Wiradjuri Aboriginal boys. Tacandi provides these young men who are at risk or have been involved with juvenile justice the opportunity to seek a different path in life by providing them with a safe place in which to learn and thrive. It is a perfect example of the kinds of successes that can follow when services are run by Aboriginal people for Aboriginal people. This service also shines a light on how genuine collaborative partnerships with other NGOs can strengthen the outcomes achieved and the importance of developing these relationships. Today's podcast will look into how the centre became established, why these young men come to Tacandi, the types of activities that the program offers, as well as the benefits and outcomes of these activities. In particular, we will look into what makes Tacandi different to other early intervention programs. But before we look into what makes Tacandi unique, let's hear what Centre Manager Ian Bloomfield, or Uncle Bloomy as the kids call him, has to say about the history behind the establishment of Tacandi.
Many years ago, probably 25 years ago, a group of Aboriginal Wiradjuri elders lobbied to the government to have a Tirkandi Inaburra up and going. It took them quite a while, probably up to 22 years, and the centre's been running since 8 years now, it's been.
The Wiradjuri elders who fought hard to establish this centre did so because they identified a real need within their community. Ian explains why.
A lot of the boys where they come from or their communities have some kind of issues, whether it's drug related, alcohol, abuse, and that's what they grow up with, where at Tacandi here it's a very safe and structured environment, and they understand what is acceptable in today's society, being outside of their community which they've grown up in, and hopefully we can plant a seed into their heads where what's acceptable and what's not acceptable outside of their community.
Tirkandi Inaburra is a bit different to most youth programs in that it's very specific to its audience. The participants of Tacandi picked specifically from the Wiradjuri tribe. They're Indigenous boys. They're between a certain age group, so it's very specific and very tailored towards them. Because of it's so strict and so tailored in its intake or its participants, we're able to tailor the program specifically for that group. So we make it very relevant to a position that they are in their lives, their level of schooling, their attitude, their behaviour. And because it's a residential program where we're with them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we get to see a lot of that behaviour that maybe programs that only see youth during the day or during certain hours they may not see. We also get to see their interaction with a range of different people, be it Aboriginal persons or non-Aboriginal persons. We get to see their interaction with people of a whole range of different ethnic backgrounds, different ages. We get to see every facet of the child's life at Tacandi, and so it really gives us a huge advantage when it comes to modifying behaviours because we get to see every aspect of their life.
That was youth worker Corey McMillan. Community Care Coordinator Hank Lyons has this perspective to share about what makes Tacandi different to other programs.
And I mean, the thing, we focus a lot on culture, we focus a lot on hygiene, health, and I mean a lot of those other programs do that sort of thing, but we just focus a lot more on culture and that respect side of things.
I wanted to explore further with the staff exactly what activities the boys do during their 3 to 6 months at Tacandi and what the staff viewed as most important for the boys. It became clear that teaching the boys about their culture and their school education were critical. However, it's impressive just how comprehensive the program is when you hear about the vast array of activities they do undertake. Here's what Case Manager Michelle Calloway has to say about what she sees as most important.
I definitely think culture and their education, but everything here that we provide for the boys, their life and living skills, their artwork, their anger management programs, first aid. I think it's all important, and they'll need to use some part of it, in their life.
Probably the cultural activities. They do quite a few. They do Aboriginal language, art, dance. Also, the other activities is certainly their education, where a high percentage of the boys that do come in have fallen through the cracks of the education system, whether it's from not turning up to school or being a lot of suspensions through their behaviour. So we just try to help the boys in letting them know why good education is quite important in today's society. Otherwise, at the end of the day, they just don't get anywhere without a good education. Lifestyle programs, I think, is very important. Just getting the boys to know how to do a bit of cooking for themselves, washing their clothes, hanging them out onto the lines, a bit of ironing, which they don't do real good at, but at least they've got a bit of an understanding on how to do it. And also a healthy lifestyle program. With the boys coming from their communities, there's a lot of takeaway food because of the circumstances of their family environment. Here, we're very healthy. They eat 6 to 7 times a day, lots of fruit, water, not many soft drinks. Soft drinks are only a reward for the boys on good behaviour. First week or so, it's pretty hard for the boys because they're used to their big mother drinks and V's and soft drinks before school and lollies. After the first week, they really don't worry about it because it's out of sight, out of mind.
I think Corey sums up the sentiments of all the staff nicely here.
All programs and all aspects of Tacandi are important in their own way, and we're trying to achieve a holistic approach to behaviour modification and improving the boys' lives. So everything that we do at Tacandi is absolutely beneficial to the outcome.
So what do the staff at Tacandi have to say about the outcomes they see for these young men?
The great outcome is that they're more confident.
They go back and be role models for others, for the other young men.
Some good young men, Indigenous men, that can go back and promote their culture with pride and show a lot of respect and receive a lot of respect too. But showing that pride in themselves will be a huge thing, which will help their community, their families, everyone. So just going back to the community after they've been here is a huge thing, and when we receive the feedback that they've succeeded, it's a great thrill for us. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They've noticed that what's been said at Tacandi, what they've learnt at Tacandi, is actually relevant to the real world, and we hear a lot of stories back from both past participants at their parents and their school that they've adapted their behaviour quite dramatically from before they were at Tacandi to when they've actually graduated and successfully completed the course.
All these outcomes are powerful indicators of the achievements of these young boys as a result of their guidance from the professionals at Tacandi. But perhaps a more telling indicator would be to see whether these young men, of whom many decided to come to Tacandi because of potential or actual involvement with juvenile justice, avoid any further contact when they go back to their communities.
We cross-referenced with all the boys that have been through Tacandi and graduated, and there's out of 4 years, the previous 4 years, there's only 2 boys that have come through that have actually been in contact with juvenile justice. And because of private and confidentiality, we weren't able to get their names or what kind of contact they had with juvenile justice. So it may have just been a simple case of these 2 boys having a conference through the juvenile justice, not actually being put into juvenile justice for any certain time.
What is evident when talking to the staff is their passion and dedication to their work and to the boys themselves. But I'll leave you with the final thoughts of Ian on why he does what he does.
I worked here for 4 years before I got the centre manager's job, and I can just see the change that you can make in these boys' lives and their families. And I think it's very important, and it's probably a passion of mine. Being Aboriginal myself, I had a very good upbringing with my father and mother. And I look at a lot of my mates where they just didn't have probably the structure that I had in my time growing up, and probably the discipline and the parenting. And it just makes me feel sad that a lot of these boys, the situations that they're in, they didn't ask for it. And a lot of them shouldn't be in the situations that they are in. And I think that's why I'm so passionate, because I just want these boys to have more or less what I've got now. And good family environment, a very good job, something that I love, and I think I'll be doing it for the rest of my life.
If you'd like to learn more, the story of Tacandi continues in the second podcast, with the staff talking about the challenges they and the boys encounter. The staff then explain the holistic approach they take to working with the boys and their families, both before and after their time at Tacandi. We finish by hearing a little bit about the partnerships Tacandi has with other services. In the final podcast, the staff shares some of the achievements of their past students that they are most proud of, and we get to hear from some of the previous students themselves talk candidly about their time at Tacandi and the impact it has had on their lives.